Just making up some shark traces there today. I said I'd do a quick video. Hopefully it might be of use to somebody. So for this, it's mainly blue sharks I'd be targeting here. You probably want to scale up if you're going for the likes of poor beagle. So you're going to need 200-pound wire. This particular one is nylon coated. We've 10-0 hook there. We've clip swivel, couple of muppets, couple of beads, large swivel, 4-ounce ball lead is what I have there. I make those myself. You can use an olive lead as well if you can, just to have it in line. We have a crimping tool, standard pliers, and we have the crimps as well there. So we've 1.2, 1.52. I usually use a 1.5 for this particular one. I usually make up the leaders separate to the hook length. Roughly, I suppose you can go 2 meters, 2.5 meters for each. Some people run a smaller hook length. Overall, I just prefer to have maybe 12 to 15 feet of wire. Obviously the shark is going to wrap themselves up. I've had it before where they've gone past 12, 13 feet and they've just about made it to the braid. So just kind of have a minimum of that anyway, you know. So I'll make up the leader there first. So what I always do a Flemish loop on all of mine. So I just get a couple of 1.5 mil ones now and just slide them down. So we'll go swivel on first. So for the Flemish loop, we'll go underneath once, pass through the loop, underneath a second time. At this stage now you can actually wind it, slide it down. You actually just pull it with both fingers there, and you can kind of pull it as tight as you need to have it. The purpose of this is if the crimps ever slide, the knot will actually slide down on itself. I had it before where I was using crimps and they weren't great for it. They weren't best suitable for it, or they weren't best suited to it. So then they actually slid off, and the Flemish loop actually held it, so it was fairly good. So on this I have, I don't know, the camera pick it up there now, 1 mil to 2 mil. This guy here, that's the fella there, and we're lining him up on edge, on the long end. So I usually get 2 squeezes on this one. For these particular crimps, they're not that long. I like to have 2 of them on it, and the second one does the tail end for me. So I'll bring that one back up, this other one back up as well, back up to here. So I want to kind of get that one to sit. I don't like having them sit together because it makes it quite rigid, and I'd be afraid it would actually, with the pressure of the fish on, it might actually put additional pressure in here and bend it, that it could snap the wire. So I just want to kind of have it where it's maybe somewhere finished in there. So I'm going to cut that to there with a bit of a back turn on it as well. Just get a pliers or a snips just to cut that. And what I like to do with this then as well is to get maybe 4 or 5 mil at the very end and turn it backwards. So you're getting something like that. Just squeeze it down flat, then that it's just a bit of a heavier end on it, that when it's inside in the crimp is well and truly going to lock it down, and you'll have no tag end showing. So you should end up with something to that effect. That the 1.5 then will swallow it up then, so it's tucked away inside. So you should end up with something like that and that. Back on our crimps again, or crimpers should I say. So That's what I have there now on my one, and that gives it full flex there on that. Obviously with the Flemish loop as well, the swivel has 2 points of contact. It's not just one single loop, so you're kind of it's giving that bit of extra safety there as well. So that's roughly what we have there. That's a good heavy swivel for that as well. So we're just I'm gonna measure out there just a little bit over 2 meters. The swivel end, just the standard swivel end, is going to be the end that's going to be tied to the braid. This one is going to be getting clipped onto our hook trace or hook length. So with this, what I like to do is I actually like to put a bead either side of the lead ball. So it's not completely necessary, but what I'd be thinking is, if you're using that trace for a while, or if you do manage to have it long enough, that when you have a crimp here and it's crimped down, that the crimp could possibly bury itself into the lead. So I'm just creating a separation point here with the bead, that even if the bead buries into the lead, it won't bury into the crimp. So I'm going to put 2 of these guys on as well. So that's what I have there now. And just push that up over the way. And with this one then, we're just putting on our clip swivel. So you're going to want everything kind of heavy for these sharks. Like, I have everything kind of a minimum of, I suppose, 100 and I think they're about 175 is the lightest bit of swivels and stuff I have there on them. So again, Flemish loop on that, under, through, under again, pull that guy down tight. Then you can sometimes, if you've gone too long here, you can push the tag end this way and you can still roll it down even tighter again. That seems about right for me anyway, just to snip off a little bit. So again, that's kind of what we have there. We don't want the loops too big. I'd be afraid if they're too big that the hook might actually come up and get caught in it as well. So I just don't want to go too big with them. So let's put these two crimps back on. Set that one somewhere there, roughly somewhere there. Back on with our crimping tool. Again, you're doing it lengthways. Originally I was doing them flat. I was pushing in here. Probably can be done that way too, but I find I get a better pinch on these particular ones that way. And I get two squeezes on each one. So you can get a bit of a close up on that one. It's always good when you hear the knuckles cracking, you know you have a good squeeze going. So I'll just turn the end back on that guy again. So that's what I have there. I suppose with the extra bit of a tail tucked back there, it'll be very hard for that to slide all the way back with the extra fold that's on that as well. So that still has a lot of movement there as well, without causing any damage. So that's the lead already. So what you have there is, obviously, just to go over it again, you have the swivel at the top all the way down 2 meters. That's what it should look like then at the bottom. Obviously you're just clipping back on here then onto your hook length here. So the 4-ounce lead will keep the leader down, and whatever hook length you've put onto that, whether it's 1 meter, 2 meters, whatever it is, that will flow away from it. But this will keep it down in the water line, or in the water column, should I say. So I just tend to roll all these and just wrap them maybe 3 or 4 times as well. Just tidy it up there now. So I end up with something that looks like that. And just go in a few times, and if you just do it the same way every time, wrap the swivel in maybe every single time, so when you're on the boat and you're unraveling it, you don't try and unravel it from the lead side, that you keep it the same every time, so you know which way you're going to go with it. You know, I usually put those into small bags as well, so there's a few of them I made up earlier there. Just put them all into a couple of bags there, so they're just all ready to go. Another bag of them there, another couple. So that's another leader done up. So for the hook length again, I'm going to do roughly about 2 meters again. Again, everybody has their own way to do it. Now you have a couple of options here. So I suppose your first option is to put a swivel on, which will be going to here. Now you already have a swivel in this one as well. Now I do tend to, if I have the swivels, I do tend to put a swivel on here and just clip it on. Now there's obviously 2 swivels roughly in the same spot, but obviously with the amount of turning the sharks do, I like to have as many as I can. Some guys do it where they just do a Flemish loop on the hook length, and they just clip the Flemish loop onto here. That will go on just like that, and they'll obviously have a swivel in, just the 1 swivel there, but I always have 2. Again, it's completely up to yourself, whatever way you want to do it. So two crimps, swivel, underneath once, through the loop of the swivel, through the eye of the swivel, underneath, just pull that down to the right size, something to that effect. Two crimps. Get the first one locked in with our crimp tool. Probably somewhere there. A small turn back. I've never had any issues with these crimps or traces like this. I've had quite big sharks on it. As I said, if you're going Port Beagle, you're going to have to scale up anyway. It's mostly blue sharks we get here anyway, so this is what I'm currently using. So that's kind of what I have there now. So I'll just get that tag in back in to the crimp. You see it up there. So I suppose if your baits are gone out, you have very little things hanging up. If you have long tag ends hanging out, and there's no wire going to get stuck in your hands either. That's what you have there, and that has full movement there as well. So I'll just measure out 2 meters there. So I suppose the Muppets are kind of optional. Loads of kind of long ones here. I think they are 180. 180s, I think. Yeah, they're all 180s, these guys. Originally bought them for skate, but I just chose them on just for the shark as well. Whether or not it makes a difference, I don't know. Obviously a shark is already after having a crack off of this one, so we'll just throw this one out. We'll reuse it if we can find the hole again. So back up, so you can have the hook down here. You can also put them on upside down where it's like that on it too, you know. So sometimes when the sharks are finicky, I actually catch that and I pull it up out of the way. I might put 2 or 3 feet away from it and have the bait standing on its own if they're a bit twitchy on that particular day. So again, 2 crimps. That's the 10-0 circle hook now. That's an offset hook as you can see there. I'm just going to give that a bit of a squeeze just to bring down the barb. I find it, if you leave the barbs in them, it can be very hard to unhook. So there's quite a barb on that one there now, as you can see. So if I could just flatten it down even, usually is enough. Don't know how to pick it up there now on the camera. So that's crushed there now. It's almost turning back the opposite way. There's this, you won't get caught in your hand, you know, but there's a small kind of a bulb on it, so it will hold a small bit. I usually just make sure that the very, very tip of it is tucked down, because it can reopen if it's not tucked in enough. Yeah, that's fairly tidy there now. Again, underneath, through, underneath again. So just tighten that down again. You could use a longer crimp. I just don't have them. Some lads have them there and they're quite long. You might get 2 or 3 closes on them. I think they're 10mm crimps. Not 100% sure now. They're fine for what I'm using them for. Again, plenty of movement there in between those two. So that's the full setup there. That's the full setup. So you'll have your swivel there, tied to your braid or your mono. You'll have your sliding inline weight here. I suppose you could probably come up with something that you're clipping it on maybe here somewhere, but what you'll find is if you're clipping it on the outside of the trace, it could tend to swing. Like if you had a lead on here and it's clipped on, it'll tend to actually just swing around, and it could be flinging the actual hook length around a small bit. So that's what you have for your leader. You'll be clipping on your swivel then, or your Flemish loop then. As I said, some guys just have the Flemish loop here and clip on. I have a swivel on here again, just to take out as many turns out of the shark as we can, because they do roll quite a bit. That'll be on here all the way down to our hook length, and the muppet on that there. I suppose the bait for us usually here is mackerel. I've had a good few of them this year on frozen mackerel as well. Usually flapper it, but I've had them on. I've had some of the smaller sharks take just little bits. We had one there recently again, and they were kind of a bit twitchy out there, so I just started feeding them, I'd say little bits, probably maybe that size, and I eventually just put on a whiting head, and it was only probably that size. The hook was way bigger than it, and they eventually took it. But usually once they're tuned into the chum, or once they're switched on, they'll take the flapper on the way in anyway, you know. But I hope that's of use anyway. I'm going to put up another video there again of the making of the shark chum. It's a bit of an easier way to do it in bulk for the gear that I have in with a wood shredder and with a paddle drill. So keep an eye out for that one as well. It might be of use if you're into the shark fishing.